all is not what it seems. A lot of people have woken up to that. They say, wait a minute, corporate media lies. They all lie. They're all colluding. The deep state is, very corrupt. And there are even Republicans involved. And there are controlled opposition figures amongst us. Hi, welcome back to Far From Eden. It might seem like that's off topic from what I usually discuss, the unfairness in our society, especially directed at men, and what you guys face, the problem with dating, the problems with marriage, especially government contracts, etc. But it's all tied together because who created all this? Who does all this benefit? The puppeteers. And like I said, some people go, oh, the deep state, oh, the Dems, right? Let me just give me a second, because could it be that the deep state is deeper than you think? Could it be that while I very much appreciate the more masculine way our government is handling some things, like, say, immigration policy, for example, it's not as much, oh, those poor people, as it is, hey, there are limited resources and not everybody can fit on the lifeboat. Also, there are some criminals amongst us and we should probably figure out who those people are, right? And we all say, yeah, get them, round them up, etc. And I'll be the first one to be like, I don't want any criminals here. And I know that, there's a legal process. I have immigrants in my family, so I understand this. However, be careful what you wish for. And remember that the Patriot Act came in through a Republican. Even though we can all look back and go, he was not good, right? Well, at least a lot of us can. And some of us can say, oh, well, it all sort of ended when JFK got what he got. But I would say it's been very corrupt for a lot longer. And my whole point is, I think it's very convenient that Trump is coming in and he has consolidated the masculine side of our society, consolidated it and said, look at that, we're cleaning up the swamp. It's not going to be swampy anymore. But what if that's a ruse? And what if it also serves the purpose of dividing us deeper? Because there are still women out there. Remember the 4B movement? That it was like, oh, we're all going to stop dating and we're going to shave our heads and everything. Well, they're not letting up. The corporate media, I can't even remember where this was from, some online publication. It doesn't matter, honest to God. Like, they're all the same. But this article published January 21st, so a day after inauguration, right? They're not giving up on this narrative. I'm terrified of dating men in a post-Trump reality. Yeah, they are. And they're putting it out there. And if you think it's not working, well, let me show you this. Because this narrative is working. They want us divided. And that's one thing, honestly, that Trump coming in and all the things they accused him of, etc. Isn't it weird that the things the Democrats campaigned on, the right to choose, try not to say other things about that, the right to choose a woman's health care, etc., and that he did some things he shouldn't with some ladies. One, a corn star, the other one, an old lady whose cat's name is a woman's body part, her lady bits. That's literally the name of her cat. The woman who said, oh, it was at Bergdorf's and it was in a dressing room. Like, sure, lady, sure, that happened, right? Funny how those are the narratives, because who would that set off? I'll show you. You ready? And I'm sorry in advance. Sorry in advance for this, but it worked on this one. Oh, I have to share a screen. Goodness gracious, you guys. Thanks for putting up with me, honestly. Talk amongst yourself for 1 second to share the screen. You know, it's a tiny little detail here. All right, come on, StreamYard. Okay, here's who it's working on. This
You are too close-minded since you won't date someone just because they voted for Trump. That is what my client said to me. So my client and I were having a conversation, and she is still adamant that this man that she wants to set me up with would be perfect for me, and we would be a perfect couple if I could just get over this one little thing. And I said, it's not a little thing. It's a huge thing. It's a deal breaker for me. Absolutely. And she just kept telling me that I was being too close-minded. And I said, absolutely not. I'm not being close-minded because it's a deal breaker. He voted for a rapist, which tells me that he is willing to bend on morals and values that I hold dear. And he's willing to allow someone to break the law and assault people because it will still benefit him in some way. So he's willing to vote for a great.
Just 1 second, ma'am. Let me just interject one little thing. You say he's willing to vote for a rapist. I say you are willing to believe a couple of false accusers. So, and it's kind of provable both ways that those accusations are ridiculous. As if this rich New York guy would ever do, like, he's not going to do that. Anyway, that's not the only thing that proves that they're false accusers, but it goes both ways, ma'am. Continue. So sorry to interrupt you.
Rapist because he's still going to financially benefit from the taxes that Trump has. I don't want to be around someone like that. It tells me I'm not safe around that person because that's not a deal breaker for him. My daughters aren't safe around that person because that's not a deal breaker for him. I said it's not being closed-minded to have a boundary that anyone who's willing to compromise morals and values and anyone who's willing to accept sexual assault on women, racism, misogyny, homophobia, all of these things, if someone's willing to accept those things from a person because they're going to benefit in some way, I don't want to be around those people. They're not safe. I'm not safe around them. Neither are my kids. So I guess I'll be a close-minded motherfucker because I am not entertaining or dating anyone who voted for Trump. You are too close-minded since you won't date someone just because they've.
Well, it might. The other side too is, maybe you don't want to date somebody who believes the corporate media. Like that's a little weird. Absolutely it is. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So this article explains a little bit more. I will go back to this if StreamYard wants me to. Okay. And then show you a couple more ladies with just compelling arguments. I'm terrified of dating men in a post-Trump reality. This is written by Abby Balter. Like I said, published on January 21st, day after the inauguration. Probably written well before that, because this is part of it. We want women to think this way. Every day since November 7th, I've walked around looking into the eyes of men wondering, did you do this? Did you vote for him? Are you happy Donald Trump is taking back power? It might be unfair, but it's still my reaction months after the re-election of Trump, which felt like a declaration that grape, fraud, racism, corruption, and blasphemy are not just acceptable, but championed and embraced. Blasphemy, you say? Well, I don't think you want to go down that route when you're comparing two candidates. Now, for all of you that are like, oh, she supports Trump, oh, I don't support any of the people that are there. I think if you've gotten to that level of power in the government, you're one of them, because they're never going to let somebody get that close that would threaten their power. They are too powerful. And I think when you start to step out of line and start to do things your own way, they JFK you. And I think that might have been what started to happen. And maybe he kind of got back in line. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. Okay. And then some of you are going to hate me for that. But you know what? I'm going to say truth regardless. And I just don't trust any of them. I'm open-minded. I'm keeping an open mind just in case. But I'm watching very carefully. But what it's done for these women to fight that, it's not the man. It's the men who voted for him. Right? That's what they're against, because they're against masculinity at the end of the day. Okay. Coupled with the growing gender gap between young men and women's political leanings, I can't help but feel wary of dating men right now, especially as Trump is inaugurated once again. I'm changing my approach to dating straight cis men in a post-Trump reality. I would like to preface this by saying that I am, at my core, a hopeless romantic. I love. I'm currently happily single. I never believe them when they say that. But would eventually like to be in a long-term relationship. But actively dating or not, I felt this election was personal. An intentional betrayal of the safety, needs, and rights of women, along with many other marginalized groups. Exactly what that chick just said. It is scary to know that so many of my peers, young men specifically, who shifted sharply towards supporting him in this election cycle, opted to elect a figure who is the antithesis of everything I believe in. I wish that someone would say to some of these people, why do you think you know what you know? What made you come to believe what you believe? I want them to see how media, movies, commercials, even news, how that has all shaped their brains to think that men are bad. The election and inauguration are flashpoints that reveal just how pervasive and enticing the patriarchy still is, how deeply it runs. And that's why I'm changing my approach to dating straight cis men in a post-Trump reality. I'm personally am very grateful to the patriarchy. I like electricity. I like, buildings. I like the opportunity to talk to all of you on this camera with this computer, these lights. I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful that if something scary happens, a fire starts, all I have to do is dial a few numbers and a bunch of mostly men are going to show up and protect me. I'm real grateful for that patriarchy. I'm grateful that, honestly, whenever I'm out, there's always a man somewhere that's holding a door, that's helping, like, I'm grateful for it. It feels like a dangerous time to exist, let alone date as a woman. It feels like, exactly. It feels like. That's exactly what they want. The blatant misogyny embodied by Trump has become more acceptable among young men because it removed any shame about holding these beliefs. That's why I cheer for Trump. It isn't because of Trump. It's because this message is more free with the current swing of how the overlords are shifting things. Thank you for putting up with my conspiracy theories. Thank you for that. Whatever offensive opinions were tamped down during the Women's March and Me Too eras have returned with a vengeance since the last election cycle, and recent interactions have revealed to me that racism, misogyny, and ignorance in progressive cities like New York, where I live, are just as prevalent as they are in red states. Yeah, some of that Me Too movement and Women's March and all those hats, a lot of that woke men up. A lot of that whole strong push for all that progressive woke stuff, you guys know what I'm talking about, the Transformers and stuff like that. That stuff with children and everything. A lot of men, especially young men, because they have less of the propaganda as far as like corporate news and stuff like that, and they have more alternative like Rumble and YouTube and stuff like that. Those viewpoints, they went, oh, evil's real. I can see it now. And they, in doing that and realizing that, they said, I don't want that. And they looked the other way. They were tired of being accused of everything. They were tired of the man bad thing. And they saw their fathers and etc. And they saw how they were treated. And they woke them up. Like, the irony is that the Me Too, false accusations, and Women's March with the hats and just the carnage of it with the women's health care carnage, men were like, geez. And they went the other way. So it's funny that it's like, you pushed them there, silly, which I'm grateful for, because I'm grateful for truth at the end of the day. Earlier this year, for example, I had a crush on someone I worked with who was a born and raised New Yorker and an actor. I assumed we were in the clear when it came to politics. But his true nature started revealing itself when he told me that he broke up with his last girlfriend because he didn't want to be having the bedroom fun with some old... Sorry. I don't read these ahead of time because I want to experience them with you, but like, how am I going to say this? Okay, these are words I don't say. Okay, he didn't want to be doing the nasty with some old A female lady bits kitty cat. Some old ASS kitty cat. That's hilarious. He was like checking her body count when he said that. Brilliant. Hats off to you, sir. It reminded me of Trump's infamous remark, grab her by the kitty cat, and exemplified to me in real time the president-elect's impact on normalizing vulgar, sexist language, which I fear will only grow worse in the coming months. Let's go to TikTok, shall we? Let's check it out. Okay. It's just a gift it keeps giving.
If you are dating someone and they voted for Trump, what are you doing? I've seen so many posts on my Instagram or on TikTok being going to vote to cancel out my boyfriend's vote, and it's baby girl, dump him. I don't know. Can you see this? Dump him. What are you doing? What do you mean? You're with a man that voted against your own rights? Running in all? No. Baby girl, dump him. Okay? That is a first date question. What are we talking about? You're in a relationship with a man that loves Trump. That's weird. That's suspicious. No.
Okay. You know, we don't do what the media tells us. We're not that easily manipulated. What are you trying to say? Another big fear comes from not knowing what the eligible men out there really believe. Recently, I learned that the man I had a crush on last year was a Trump supporter, which is something he never expressed in my presence. Men my age may know that many women our age don't accept that behavior. After all, young women in swing states favored Kamala Harris in this latest election. It disturbs me to know that there is something of a code of silence or selective hearing that happens among some groups of men. They know they've been trained that they can't talk. Do you understand? No, they don't understand. What am I saying? Men have learned that if they dare to express an opinion, that you will then jump to the conclusion that they are evil, that they're this, that they're other. So, of course, they don't say it. Not that long ago at work, many people had jobs where it's like, you're not allowed to put personal political stuff in your cubicle. And then everybody had like Obama stuff. But if you put something about Trump, well, that's not allowed. So there's acceptable viewpoints in society and unacceptable viewpoints in society. That's why they're quiet. I want to talk about, the patriarchy, they have so much privilege. They can't even say their opinions. Whatever. Okay. It creates a false safety net when that type of man tells women what he thinks they want to hear. No, he's just not telling you the things that will cause you to freak out. He's trying to keep peace for himself. Ding dong. Hey. Okay. For me, that trauma runs deep. One ex-boyfriend eventually revealed himself last spring when I was complaining about harassment of a certain type in the restaurant industry. He responded that I needed to find a new bit, as my feminist beliefs were cringy, and so 2016. I love that the men are saying these things now. Goodness gracious, you would have never heard men talking like this 10 years ago outwardly, because they couldn't. That's one of the things I like about this whole Trump era. Doesn't mean I believe that they'd ever let somebody in there who's really going to disrupt things for the purpose of, getting rid of the corruption or whatever. I think that's a ruse, but the culture that has been freed by this, I'm thoroughly here for. I'm recounting these stories now, not to call out these individuals, but to draw attention to the visible shift in how men think about and talk to women, which I argue has been emboldened by Trump. It's true. Dating is always slightly perilous. Love is always a risk. But I hate that it's normal for 20-something women like me to feel looked down upon, objectified, and made to feel powerless. Okay. They just prefer things that you're not. And they're allowed to say, yeah, well, not really into that type of woman. That's fine. I don't think you should have that sort of health care. You know what I mean? Like, they're allowed to have an opinion, and they're allowed to have an opinion that is that is unfavorable towards you. And it doesn't mean that they are casting an entire opinion about women in general. They can say, I don't really care for all the behavior that's going on recently. But it doesn't mean that they have any kind of hate in their heart. But it helps to believe that if you'd like to be a victim. Because remember, victims are never guilty of anything. So let's be victims. Oh my gosh. And when I've tried to have honest conversations about this with men, family members, colleagues, and acquaintances throughout the election cycle, I've been incredibly alone and misunderstood. When I've talked about my dismay for her body, my choice movement, or how difficult it is to date with politics in question, it's often met with jokes and laughter, dismissed as being dramatic. Not a dissimilar reaction to how Trump and his cohort respond to these concerns. That's funny. Call me crazy, but if you're like, all these people have problems, like everybody I talk to has problems. Did anybody learn what a common denominator is? Like, why is it never, if I was talking to this person, well, I already know, like, because I did. Like, you're talking to all these people, and they're all like, no, I don't think so. I think you're wrong. Maybe you're wrong here. Maybe you go, let me think about this. Because these are people I know, and some of the people I respect. Maybe I should actually give their point of view a second thought. Why is that never the case? We just can't be wrong. Little Miss can't be wrong. It's a form of power, a way of taking back our bodies, which are constantly feasted upon by the male gaze. How much can women take before we just give up? Before we lose hope? I can't believe people called her dramatic. Such is the dilemma exemplified by the 4B movement, which started in South Korea and has women essentially swearing off men completely. While I don't plan on going to this extreme, I completely see the appeal. In a world where so much of our leverage with men is in our sexuality, the one thing we have control over is how much of ourselves we give away or don't. It's a form of power, a way of taking back our bodies, which are constantly feasted upon by the male gaze. Didn't she just say that? She forgot. When she edited her article, she messed up and she said it twice. Whoops. Sometimes it feels like the only power we have left to withhold ourselves and our bodies from men, like it's some kind of punishment. Yeah, like, oh, wait, hold on one second, please. We just did a series on this book. Just finished it yesterday. She's like admitting it right now. Like, this is what we use. This is the only thing we can use to manipulate. So I guess we have to use the stick instead of the carrot. Or withhold the carrot. Jeez. Frankly, I am terrified I will never meet someone who sees me and loves me and understands me, or at least tries hard to. Translation, lets me get away with everything. I want that type of love more than anything. But nowadays, it seems further away than ever. But I'm also unwilling to give up hope. As these feelings have lingered inside of me for months, I've decentered dating from my life, as have several of my close friends. Well, I will always be a hopeless romantic. The hurt, anger, and frustration I have felt regarding the election and many young men's reaction to it drove me to a point where I knew I needed to take a step back. She's not traumatic. I don't know what they're talking about. When I am ready to dive headfirst into dating again, I'll do things differently. While bringing up politics on a first date can feel heavy, dropping an occasional half-joking sentiment about the state of the world and gauging their reaction can be a good indicator about where they stand. This is so dumb. Before you ever go out on a date, figure out, just ask them. Dating is so stupid. Especially, he's paying, right? So you're just gonna take advantage of that, let him pay for the whole thing, and then be like, no, you're too conservative. Why don't people just find that stuff out before they ever even go? I don't get that. I will never get that. Figure out the important things. What is your goal? Do you want a long-term relationship, or are you just trying to have some fun? What's your worldview? What's your religion? How are you raised? What do you believe? I don't understand why that is not all talked about and known by, like, before you ever even plan a date. Even body count, expectations, roles. Let's just get rid of all this, like, swipe left, swipe right, whatever. It's like, tell me what you believe. Tell me who you are. How would I know that I want to go on a date with you if I don't even know who you are? And they're like, well, that's what dating's for. What a waste of time. Anyway, I digress. I am a big weirdo, and I just have always been like, what are humans even doing? But I think that's why I can kind of see the man behind the curtain too. Because I'm just like, I just don't accept just this is how we do it because this is how we've always done it. Because no. I want to know why I know what I know, why I know what I think I know, and what everybody's actually doing out here. And whether it is the first date or the fifth, if the conversation steers in the direction of politics, I think transparency is the best route. In the past, I have sometimes downplayed my beliefs to make myself seem more palatable to whom I perceive the other person to be. That's exactly what she's accusing the men of doing. I hid myself so he would like me. Why don't you just say that? I lied. Okay, which has benefited no one, right? It can be hard to stand up for yourself, but something I remind myself is to never let someone make you feel ashamed of who you are or what you believe. This is a good time to point out that, especially if there are any women watching this, which I hope to God you are, please just listen to me for a second. A lot of these things that are written or that are in the news, it's made to seem like she's telling you her point of view. But in reality, and it might be her point of view, but the real purpose is this is instructional. This is how you should think, ladies. This is how you should think. You should think. Never let someone make you feel ashamed of who you are or what you believe. Translation, never open your mind to the fact that you might be wrong about something. Never consider that you might have more to learn. That's the propaganda. That's the instruction. That's how it's received. We don't realize that's how we're receiving it, but that's what's happening. Rip this curtain right off. And ultimately, if you're not aligned on core issues like women's rights, you're probably going to have much bigger problems down the road. But for now, I'm mostly reprioritizing myself. With an administration, again, that's instructional. They want women to read this, but for now, I'm mostly reprioritizing myself. They want women to read that and go, yeah, I'm reprioritizing myself. It's instructional. With an administration that wants to strip my rights away, strip my rights, taking power, I'm protecting my own peace. Hey, that's my line. I've poured myself into my work and hobbies, things that bring me joy, and have made concerted efforts to deepen and celebrate my friendships, specifically with women. Isn't that weird? It's that's kind of what men are doing when they go MGTOW, but they're horrible for that. They're hateful for that. She just described that she's single on purpose and she's reprioritizing herself and protecting her peace, and nobody's shaming her or accusing her of anything, are they? They're celebrating her and kind of instructing women to do the same. Sounds like a double standard to me. That can't be the case. Women wouldn't do that. We're sugar and spice and all things nice. Having such a strong community of people that I respect and trust, and vice versa. has restored a lot of my hope and faith in humanity. Sometimes, in order to move forward, you have to take a step back. When dating does feel like a priority for me again, it will be pursued with a healthier mindset and security in who I am and what I'm looking for in a partner. Yes, you will be hardened, you will be more disagreeable, you will be more uncooperative, and your egg carton will be nearly empty. And the men will all be bad for not wanting you. So let's read a little bit about the author real quick. Abby Balter is a culture writer based in New York City. Abby is passionate about covering everything from politics and social justice to sex and relationships to the fashion and art landscape. Abby's work has been featured in PS, Boston Common Magazine, the Cambridge Chronicle, and more. So you should listen to her and do what she does. See? Media is just sharing the news with you. It's just that. Could you imagine if this was written the other way around? You're not allowed to say that. I mean, like I said, with this Trump era and the emboldening of masculinity, which is what I'm enjoying about it. I like that men are allowed to have an opinion. Now, they're going to get shamed and this, that, and the other, but they can still have an opinion. I want that more than anything. I want more than that for men, but this is a positive thing. It's a positive thing. I don't know where it'll go. Like I said, I think that we're all going to be like, yes, we need law and order. Welcome back, law and order. And yeah, I want bad people to be off the streets and stuff, but it's sort of like the Patriot Act where it was like, we need to spy on the terrorists. And so we need the right to spy on everybody. Like, oh yes, get the terrorists. And it's like, oh, wait a second. Wait a minute. Wait, what? Yeah. So law and order, da, 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 da. And you could think of it like sort of like how the libertarians do, where it's like, yeah, but the fact that now you're going to have, I don't know if we're going to have National Guard in the streets or what we're going to have to clean everything up. And, think about what it would take to clean up San Francisco, for example, right? And if we're like, yes, come clean up San Francisco, la, la, la. Well, as the libertarians might think, well, what happens when, say, the other side gets in and they use that power? That's something you can think of. Who knows? Who knows? Or could be that you have this, like, we're going to bring in law and order and we're going to enforce immigration laws. And then the leftists, both, Congress and everything, look at how they're standing up against the USAID deal. They're really like shut down Senate and all that. So is that going to create some conflict? There's a reason they're allowing this rise in masculinity. There's a reason they're allowing your voices to be heard now. And I don't know if it isn't to just antagonize the other side. I don't know. But I'm glad that men can talk, and I'm glad men feel emboldened. That's what I'm glad of. I don't know where it'll go, but remember, you shouldn't let anybody shut you up. And it's horrible that you've been silenced for this long. And I hope that no matter what happens, men maintain the belief in knowing who they are, and they don't allow themselves to be bullied and taken advantage of. My optimism always seeps through. Because even if the whole thing goes down, even if this is the fall of society, I go, yeah, but we still exist. We're still here. So what are we gonna do? during it? And what are we going to do after it? Hopefully, remember who we are in God's order, God's perfect order. Sometimes Sodom and Gomorrah have to be destroyed to get back to something more similar to the Garden of Eden. Right now, we are very far from that. So, it's important that you feed your souls, protect your peace from these crazies. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.